Hello, legends. So they're coming for the children, aren't they? I don't think that's any secret. I'm chatting to a wonderful band who've been ostracised because of this. Let's get into it. Dan and Eliza, whom by fire? How we doing?
Good, thank you.
Good, thanks, Chris.
How was it on Richard Vobe's chat?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
good,
yeah,
interesting
yeah. It was
Good.
discussions. Yeah.
He didn't try and borrow money off you, did he? You gotta
No,
be, you gotta be careful with him.
he was all right.
Wow. So first off, congratulations on your music. I was just listening. Well, I was listening to some the other day, and I listened to a bit before we went live. How did you get together?
So Eliza and I have been forming together since we were kids, basically. So and we've been best friends since then. So it's been a number of years.
How many
Yeah.
years? Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot.
Couple of years.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've only seen you on Spotify. Apologies, so I haven't seen you live, so I don't know who does what.
Yeah, so Dan plays guitar and sings. I sometimes
Oh,
play bass and so.
okay. We just got a bit of a pause in the Zoom there. You play bass. Did you say you sing as well?
Yeah, and sometimes piano as well. Sing.
And so I'm guessing a little bit like my buddy Matt Hoy, formerly UB40, that
Mm.
things were sort of going swimmingly for you in the early days, getting some gigs, and then as you became more aware of the agenda, things started to get stickier. Uh,
Mhm.
am I about right?
Yeah. We were quite well known, particularly in our local community, and quite well liked as well. And but as soon as we started speaking out about subjects to do with the sexualization of children and transgender ideology, we quite quickly lost the love of our local music community.
Yeah. Um, well, first off, congratulations that you're aware of this. I think a lot of people don't realize Richard Branson goes into schools.
Mm.
You know, we've got to be careful what we say here, as there's no doubt people watching understand, but they're subjecting these kids to a certain procedure, and it's just, it's not on.
Yeah,
People are
yeah,
gullible because they think in the old days, you trust for example, you trust the medical community and you trust the pot. This isn't that life anymore.
No.
no,
And I feel strongly because, it's a bit of a toughie when you see this stuff, isn't it? And you're sort of in a society where most people are asleep, sort of naive to it or asleep to it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Or see it and just choose to ignore it as
yeah,
well. There's always that
yeah.
going on.
I think in the music community, or at least the music community that we were a part of, um, there is they do like to consider themselves to be very liberal
Yeah.
and woke, and I think a number of them do actually very much support transgender ideology, and which includes grooming children. But then there's quite a lot. If you speak to them privately, they will actually say, "No, I don't agree with that," but they won't say it publicly, and they're just terrified about being shunned by their friends and go, you know, anything that goes against their crowd, they won't say publicly. But if you speak to them one-on-one, it's a bit of a different matter a lot of the time.
When did it first become a problem for you? Was it, like I said, as you sort of woke up and started to take a stance, things got a bit stodgy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken out about quite a few issues for several years. Obviously, you know, things to do with the lockdowns and that sort of thing. I was very vocal about that. And I did get a lot of pushback from people to do with that. But as soon as I started speaking about transgender ideology and the sexualization of children, that's when we got the really sort of nasty abuse and people coming after our gigs and that sort of thing. Yeah, so I think that was what actually got us cancelled.
And that was about a year ago.
Yeah.
In June, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a year ago this June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it during the, if we just say the last it's 4 years now of the dreaded nonsense. Was that well, I'm guessing a lot of it was lockdown, wasn't it? But was that a difficult time for you as a band?
Yeah, I mean, we still met and we still rehearsed and met regularly and recorded and did as much as we could. We didn't go into the whole live streaming thing, did we? We never did that.
No, just...
But a lot of people were doing that.
Yeah, a lot of the local bands were doing live streaming their gigs from home, but it just felt a bit weird to do that, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying it, you know, must have affected your income, the whole not being able to even have gigs, and then when they're allowed, it makes it sound like we have to ask people if we can get together and play music, doesn't it? But that's a spell that people are under, is they believe that they are under this law, and of course they were making it mandatory, weren't they? If you wanted to go to a music venue, you had no choice but to let's say have the procedure.
Yeah.
I mean that was quite a sketchy time, because some like artists were in the position where they could actually go and perform without having the procedure, but the people that were coming to watch them had to have had the procedure to watch them. So, and I mean, for us, I mean, that was just, you know, there's no way that I would be happy to perform for an audience if they were being forced to do something that they shouldn't be forced to. So
yeah, you'd have to have St John's ambulance on standby, working overtime. So
absolutely.
What's your whole take then on the abuse of our little ones? What I mean, I don't go out much. It sounds a bit sad. I mean, you know, we got a young one in school. Fortunately, I've never seen him engage in any of this nonsense. Well, obviously the last 4 years are nonsense, but none of this drag queen story hour bullshit. What is going on out there?
Well, from what I've seen, there's a huge mental health crisis with young people. Well, not just young people, lots of people. But it looks to me like the Pride community as an organisation are preying upon vulnerable kids and teenagers, and I just think that is one of the worst things anyone can do, is to like prey upon the innocence of children. And I think if you see that and you don't speak out against it, then there's something wrong with you, really. and it's like, yeah, you will get some pushback. You might be shunned by some people, but I think, like, for me, not speaking out against it, like, I could not live with my conscience just seeing it happen and, you know, not saying something just so I can get on with a few people that might not like what I've got to say.
Yeah, it's on the one hand, it's evil what they're doing to the youngsters, and on the other hand, for you, you know, it's hard to witness that when you get what's going on. On the other hand, you've got to be around people that are going along with it. It's like a double whammy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think everyone is necessarily. I think there is a certain amount of naivety in that whole movement as well. But I certainly think there are a lot of predatory people within that community as well.
Predatory. There's people making a profit off these operations, you know. I don't know what you call them, implants and therapy and hormones and doctors, you know, not really, you know, behaving morally. You know, I'd say to any young person listening, well, I mean, I've got a lot to say, but the first off is, like, you're perfect as you are. You are the way life intended you to be. And anyone like us with half a hint of intelligence, we love you just the way you are. And the notion that you could go and make a catastrophic decision with your body or your mind at your age, when I'm 54, I still don't know 100% who I am. I've found my place in paradise, and I'm completely accept myself. It's kind of crazy. It's like, imagine how many people decided to have a tattoo when they were a teenager or a young person, and even 5 years later they massively regret it, because not because tattoos are bad or anything, quite the opposite. Many of us have got them, but because your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions, and your take on life changes.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So kids, if you're thinking about making changes with yourself, wait until you're 54.
Yeah.
Trust Uncle Chris.
Oh.
That makes me sound like a pedo, doesn't it?
Oh.
Come and sit on my lap, Sonny. No, that's fucking Jimmy Savile now. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
No, I like the comparison with tattoos. That's a really good way of sort of looking at it.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I remember when I was younger, I was much more of a tomboy. I much preferred, like, playing with Lego and dolls and all that kind of stuff. And never once did it cross my mind that I was a boy, because I enjoyed climbing trees instead of, like, I don't know, playing with a Barbie or something. And even, you know, growing up through into my teenage years and everything, I've never felt like a girly girl as such. I don't even know if you're allowed to say that anymore, a girly girl. But yeah, and I never ever thought, oh, well, that means that I must be a man then. Like, I've never understood that.
Yeah, I studied at uni for, I think, 5.5 years in the social sciences, so in the social field, and I see where it comes from. You know, you got a whole, like, faculty in there, and they're all, you know, they're all tossing themselves off over the fact that they're so accepting of division, and I'm sort of criticizing the issue, not the people are just victims like we all are. Yeah. We're all victims to this agenda because we're too gullible to understand that that there's a psychopathic network or sociopathic network of depraved perverts that figured out the way, probably many thousands of years ago, how to control the gullible masses. And because they control the university system, they fund all of education through, and because they control the flow of information, they've got everyone in uni thinking like it's dead cool to you got to accept everything, and you can't, if you don't, then you're a bad person. And it's like, no, it's only healthy to encourage people to make a good connection with life, with spirit, with universe. If people want to call that God, to fall in love with yourself and think that being the ultimate, or aiming for narcissism in this life is going to make you happy with your 5,000 Instagram follower or whatever. There must be some like Greek tragedy or some Greek story about, the person that like looked in the mirror too much. Because the further you go into yourself, the further you're anchoring yourself in this 3D matrix of utter nonsense, rather than, actualizing your divinity is what I'm trying to say. Yes. Yes. And just further to that, it's so hard to have a job now, especially in the social field, because people have just been brainwashed into being woke morons.
Yeah.
And again, I'm probably sounding a bit rude, but I'm just saying it as it is. Yeah, sorry. I'm talking a lot, guys, but
no, it's true. And I mean, when I'm not playing music, I actually work with people who are in mental health crisis. So I do see a lot of the direct result of the sort of things that we're talking about, and how destructive it can be and is. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about suicide, especially being a veteran. It's very big in the veterans community, and it's so easy to understand when you're, been through the mill like I have, and you've worked out the answers to come out the other side. You can physically look at people, and you might not know their individual circumstances, but you know where their mindset is. And when you anchor yourself in this 3D matrix, in your lower self, and you don't make that higher connection, it's hard work. Because rather than let God deal with you're dealing with everything. You're dealing with every idiot on bloody Facebook. And it don't matter how many, how big you get your muscles and how many tattoos you've got and how good you are at fighting in the, you can still be the most desperately unhappy person. Yes. Gosh, what else were we going to talk about? I mean, it's all. I mean, cancel culture. What's your experience of that?
So we initially got chucked off a festival for speaking about these sort of things, and then we've had quite a few of our other gigs targeted by people from let's just say the prior community. They've been successful at getting us chucked off a couple of gigs, and unsuccessful in some cases. It's a bit of a bit of a game sometimes. But you know, on the flip side of that, we've had new opportunities, and we've made so many new connections, and you know, it's been difficult at times. I'm not going to lie about that, but I think overall it's been, you know, really positive to make the connections we have, and hopefully, you know, what we're trying to do now is we've started the label Wrong Think Records, and we'd really like that to be a haven for other artists who are in similar positions to us, and you know, hopefully we can be supportive for some of those artists, because it you know, it can be quite, you know, scary, like being on the receiving end of some of the abuse that you get, and just I think more than that, you know, when you do your sort of local community turns on you all in one go, it can just feel like you've got no network of friends around you. So
support.
I think people need to know that there are people out there that will be there to support them.
Yeah, you're probably on the next wave, because everything comes in cycles, doesn't it? So it won't be like this nonsense forever. Eventually people are going to wise up to this. More and more people are going to come to your record label. You as such will benefit, not just, well, in terms of the public and in terms of money, and then you'll be the shining light. So this is good.
I mean, having said that, Chris, I think I totally agree with that, actually, and I think it is a really good time for, you know, bands and people as well, obviously, to start speaking out. And I think like we spoke to a few people, like we had some friends who were in similar situations to us, who I think they spoke out a few years ago, and there wasn't that support network around them, and they really took a kicking. But I think there's more awake people now. More people can see what's going on, and you know, people are getting sick of the bullshit. So yeah. And I think, like, for anyone that doesn't speak out, you know, you have to think about, like, you know, how is history going to judge you if you've just sat there and just, you know, ignored the elephant in the room? It's not going to look good for those people. So I think, you know, now is a good time to speak up.
Yeah, I look at youngsters now and think about when I was their age. My gosh, Saturday morning, the door starts knocking round about 11 o'clock. Is Chris coming out to play?
Yeah.
Chris! You know, Stevie's at the door. Come in. And that was it. You was off out that door. Playing was just brilliant.
Yeah.
And then in your teenage years, we got our BMXs, and that was just, honestly, if anyone ever doubts there's a God and that he loves you, like, just look at BMX and look at the dance era. That's all you need to know. It was. I've been fortunate to have, you know, have the double whammy, two waves of just utterly can't put it into words incredibleness in my life. And yes, it's funny, isn't it? And it changes the attitude of adults, because we go out on our bikes all day. Our parents never worried about traffic or us getting knocked off, or it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Now, you think of your little one going out on their bike, and I don't know, you just got all this shit in your head, haven't you?
Yeah.
So, friends at home, what we're going to do, we're going to take all your questions, but we're going to go over to locals so we can have a good, open, honest chat on our freedom of speech platform. There's the link there on the screen. You can just see it, christhrall.locals.com. There's a link in the description box below, along with Dan and Eliza's social media links or their link tree. What have you got to say to people to close, guys? What's a good message that we can put out?
So if there's any musicians out there who are, passionate, particularly about freedom of speech and, perhaps some of the things we've discussed, please do reach out to us. We are going to be putting out a compilation of Wrong Thing artists in the near future. Still in the planning phase for that, but drop us an email to wrongthingrecords@hotmail.com, and we'll get back to you.
Love to hear from you.
Yeah. And if people do want to support us, they can check out our album, which we've very recently released, and I'm sure there'll be a link in the description. If not, you can find it on our link tree.
Absolutely. So if me and my mate Disco Dave come to you with a band idea, I'm thinking of a band, calling it Oasis. Disco, he'll be on the guitar because he's the ugly one. I'll be doing the vocals, kind of. That looks rude as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But do you think that any mileage in that? Is that that's my pitch?
Sound like, really?
Hey, you got to roll with it.
Oh yeah, very good.
So, just on behalf of myself, thanks ever so much, Dan and Eliza, for what you've done. There is only one way, and it's just doing the right thing. That's it. And
yeah.
The Gurkhas have a wonderful expression. They say something like, "It's better to die than live as a coward."
Yeah, exactly that.
That's my thing. I had to go for a test for cancer during all that nonsense, and it's fine, folks. I didn't. The way I live my life, I very much doubt I'm going to get cancer. But as you get older, you get lumps and bumps. And I had this appointment to go and have an ultrasound or something. And they were like, right, if you're gonna wait in the car park, and we'll send someone out. Then you got to put your mask on, and then come in. And then it was all like, you got to hop on one leg for 10 minutes. Shove a carrot in your ear. And I was like, I don't wear a mask. She's like, what? I said, I haven't got a mask. Well, you've got to. I said, well, no, I haven't. That sounds a bit silly to me. Oh, well, you're not having your appointment then. All right, I'll crawl away. I'd rather die. Genuinely, I'm not being silly. I'd rather die than be a coward. I just would. So in the end, I just rocked up. Obviously, didn't wear a mask. I mean, people used to say to me, "Oh yeah, well, you know how it is, Chris. You got one in the car, haven't you, for when you fill up with." I'm like, no, I haven't. And yeah, in that 2-year period or whatever it was when it was all coming on heavy, I had three people objected. Two of them, one guy threw me out the shop with my son, and that was okay. I got the chance to teach my son what it's like to be a legend.
Yeah.
Then we had the manager in Go Outdoors chasing us around the shop. Get out! You gotta get. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Sorry. A bit more space in Go Outdoors to wander around maskless and be a rebel, because the other place was like a little corner shop. It was causing a bit of a scene. Yeah, a couple of other, but I mean, it's fine. People just gobbing off. That's all it was.
Yeah, I think I was the same actually. I got challenged a few times, but like nothing particularly major. There was one time I think I was getting a coffee in an M&S garage, and in walked the police, and I was like, oh, here we go. And I thought about, I was like, oh, shall I just leave? And I was like, no, I want to see what happens. And this policeman came, and obviously, like, they're always ordering coffee, aren't they? So he comes up and he just stands right next to me, like, and he didn't do anything. So yeah. You
gotta do what's right, you know. It's just an easier life. It's you gotta be able to live with yourself. It can't be. It must be a weird life. Just kowtowing to all this bullshit. It must just be.
Yeah.
You know. It's like, fuck. Excuse my French, but fuck your job. Fuck having a house. So I'll lose the job. I'll downsize, man. I'll get a flat. I'll go and live in a cardboard box. I'll be way happier than being a person that's like, whoa, you know, no, you got to go along with it. I mean, I know it's not easy for everyone. I'm like, I get it, but I can still also guarantee you ain't going to die if you don't do what your boss has told you. In fact, do you know what? He's probably just going to shut his or her mouth and go, oh, well, that one's not having it. Just you know, let them be. I mean, it's there's not an awful lot they can do if you just say no, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, it's not the people that, obviously there were some people that actually believed everything and were terrified, and I've got some sympathy for them, perhaps sometimes, depending on what sort of mood I'm in, really. But I don't think they're really the problem. It's the people that knew it was wrong and just went along with it so they could go on holiday, or didn't want to get told off by some sort of a 16-year-old shelf stacker in Tesco's. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's not, you know, if you can't, you know, if you know it's wrong, and like, nobody's like was holding a gun to anyone's head. So,
but that's probably what it felt like, though, to a lot of people, didn't it?
Well, that's pathetic, I think.
Well, yeah, I know. But I remember a couple of people saying after it had all finished, that they had regretted doing it in order to go on holiday, because that was the only reason they did it. And
any talk, let's be honest, any talk of regret tells you that people have realised now that was that was not right. That was not right. And fortunately, it's now cast doubt on that whole thing, right? Because anyone watching who's been in the military knows that we were like, you had all of that stuff in the military, and you didn't know to question it because you didn't know anything about health. At least now, you know, we're born perfect. It's that simple. You're born perfect, and anything you put between you and your divinity, your spirit, your God, anything you put between you, this is my feeling on it anyway, whether it's a religion, whether it's a drug, whether it's a worship system, whether it's let's just say a medical procedure, it's not going to end well. It's you know, or let's just say, you know, there's a better outcome. You know, Mother Nature's incredibly clever. She doesn't need like multi-billionaire corporate sociopaths to help her. She just doesn't. She absolutely doesn't. And yes. Okay, guys. Thanks ever so much for the chat. Let's go over to locals, shall we, and take some questions.
Cheers.
Friends, massive thank you to my guests. All their links are below. Massive thank you to you. If you could like and subscribe, that would be wonderful. And just a quick shout out to say my Atlantic row, which will be December, we've raised £10,000 already. Massive thank you. We're going to be supporting people struggling with their mental health. There's links for all of that below, but just thank you to everyone who's chipped in their £5. You're absolute legends. Thank you ever so much. Right, see you on Locals in 5 minutes.
Cool.
'Cause I've been living life